413 FPV has a 1S AIO. The BEC is dead. I have BEC chips to bring 3.0 volts up to 5 volts, 2 amps. So I run the 1S battery in on the chip, and then the 5 volt out goes where? To any 5 volt and ground to restore power to the board. Yes, you need the 1S battery is going to the input on the regulator, and the 5 volt out from the regulator goes to any 5 volt and ground to restore power to the board. That is correct. That is correct. Probably a dumb question, but is it safe to leave my radio battery plugged into the radio? Thank you for a $5 super chat, Dr. Crazy. Yes, it is safe. Yeah, it's safe. Like, you could imagine a scenario where something inside the radio fails and short circuits the battery, which then causes the battery to light on fire. And if the battery had been unplugged, that wouldn't have happened. But that's not a super likely scenario. I'm not saying it's never happened. I can remember one email I got once upon a time where someone said, "Oh my God, my radio lit on fire." Well, it was just sitting there. Maybe if the battery had been unplugged, that wouldn't have happened. But in general, everybody leaves their batteries plugged into the radio. And in general, they almost never like spontaneously light on fire. Am I going to look at the Baby Ape Freestyle, says Sep. Nah, I'm not in a rush to do it. I'll tell you what I do have, though. That's the Darwin FPV quad. What I do have is this. I just got this in the mail. This is the Darwin FPV Johnny 240. It's a tough one. This is a 5-inch freestyle quad for like $225, I think. I don't think I can't find a cheaper 5-inch quad. I haven't even flown it yet, so I'm intrigued to find out. Does it not have a receiver? I must have... That's mildly annoying. Must have got it bind and fly. Oh, well. And I'm torn on whether I would rather have this Darwin FPV 5-inch for about $225 or like a Nazgul Evoke or a Nazgul V3 for like $270. It's only like $50 more, but I think it's a better quad, but I don't know. But I don't know about the Baby Ape Freestyle. Kim Fused has got a question. Thank you, Kim Fused, for a $5 super chat. O3 DJI unit lights up green but is not recognized via USB. No, Gardo may have hit my coax cable with the iron. No worries, Gardo is not in trouble. I'd be surprised if the camera coax cable caused the O3 not to like boot up at all, but not impossible. You could try disconnecting the cable from the O3 and see if that lets it boot up. But yeah, lights up green, but not. You've plugged in the battery, I presume. I know Kim. I'm sure you know this because you're no stranger. Excuse me. I think you're no stranger to the O3, but in case you're new to the O3, you have to plug the battery in before USB will. No. You have to do that before you can bind. USB will still work.
Can I just say real quick? We have another question that's exactly the same, so we just take it real quick.
Yeah.
Null Cure also says, my O3 unit is pretty new, been working without issue. It disarmed in the air and fell soft. No visible damage, and he's having the same symptom, essentially.
O3 won't connect, but shows a green light. I mean, that sucks. If the O3 won't connect, I mean, I would wonder if the power to it is messed up somehow. Like maybe it's not getting enough voltage or enough current. Yeah, that's where I would go. It seems DJI stuff is usually pretty durable, so it seems unlikely that it would just like fry the O3 in a light crash, but then nothing is impossible. Nothing's impossible. Matt Sanders wants to know, will the Baby Ape carry a Vista? Oh, I mean, the 3-inch? I I am pretty sure that if you put a naked Vista on it, it will fly. I would definitely do a naked Vista, for the record. I'm pretty sure it would fly. I think that you would definitely notice the additional weight. But I think you could... The other thing is that you would need to change out the standoffs because I don't think you're going to have enough height. Are you going to have enough room to get it in the rear? That did not sound right. I don't know if you could fit it in the rear of the frame. I don't know if it would fit. I'm skeptical now that the more that I look at it, I'm skeptical that it would fit in the rear of the frame. Yeah. I think the motors and props would lift it if it had a naked Vista. I'm not sure it would fit in the frame. I think you probably would end up needing... The problem is if you needed to extend the vertical standoffs, then the camera plates wouldn't fit anymore and the whole front end would change. I think it could be done, but I think it would require a lot of compromises. Caden Armbruster wants to know, how quickly should I use my 6S batteries after charging them? Can I use them as long as 2 days after, or should I discharge them if I can't use them in under 24 hours? Caden, there is no right answer to that question. The longer the batteries spend at full charge, the more they wear out and perform worse. However, cycling the batteries back to storage and back up again also wears them out. So I don't know what the exact break-even point is where you're doing more damage by leaving them charged versus doing more damage by discharging them and charging them back up again. To me, it's mostly a matter of convenience. It's just a hassle to take 10 batteries that I charged up and put them on storage and run them back down again and then charge them up again the next time I go to fly. So for me, it's usually a day or two. And then if I'm not flying in a day or two, I'm probably not flying in a week either. So I'll go ahead and put them in storage. But there isn't a definitive right answer here. And if you don't mind the hassle of bringing them back down to storage, it's probably better to bring them back down to storage because that little... 2 amp discharge probably isn't hurting them very much. David V asks, why does my drone seem to float a long time after I bump the throttle hard? David, I want to introduce you to the concept of prop loading. Prop loading means that or disc loading. Disc loading is the term I'm looking for. Disc loading means that you take the weight of the quadcopter and you divide it by the surface area of the prop disc. So if you have a 5-inch prop, that prescribes a circle, right? Pi r squared is the area of that circle. You multiply that by 4 props and you get a certain number of centimeters squared. And then you take the weight of the quadcopter and divide it by the centimeters squared of the prop disc. And that prop loading, or that disc loading, is one of the major factors in how floaty or how heavy the quadcopter feels. A quadcopter with a very low disc loading will be more jumpy, it will accelerate faster, and will float longer when you get off the throttle. So it's possible that you just have a very powerful, very lightweight quadcopter with large props for its weight. That's one answer. If you've been playing with the tuning, with the PID tuning, and you've jacked up the PIDs to really high levels, that can also cause the motors to not want to idle down after you raise the throttle. One of the signs of a dangerous PID tune is when you punch the throttle and then lower it, and instead of the motors coming back down, the motors and kind of want to keep flying. So one of the things I would ask is, when you lower the throttle, do the motors spool back down, but the quadcopter then floats? That's just a powerful, lightweight quadcopter. But if you punch throttle and you lower throttle and the motors don't come back down quickly, if they come back down slowly or maybe don't want to come down at all, that could be an issue of PID tuning or a mechanical problem. Magneto wants to know, why am I losing connection with my ExpressLRS receiver? I see a flickering 50 to 80% connection when next to it, and when flying, my controller says connection lost. Replace the receiver. Like, ExpressLRS receivers are $15. There's a fair chance you have a bad receiver, and replacing the receiver will fix it. Or you could have a bad, like some other problem, in which case replacing the receiver will rule out the receiver as the problem and let you move on to something else. So for $15 for a new receiver, that's easy troubleshooting, and maybe it'll fix the problem.